Save the city or catch your greatest enemy. You can't do both.
I'm sorry, what did you just say?
You can't do both, I said.
No, I mean the other thing.
Save the city or catch your greatest enemy.
You think you're my greatest enemy?
Yes! You're obsessed with me!
No, I'm not.
Yes, you are.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you are! Who else drives you?
Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes, and this is quickly becoming one of my favorite weeks in comics is when we get this big load up of all the Batman titles that aren't Batman or Detective Comics. Although Detective Comics did come out this week, but I'm not really reading that comic. I don't like the Magistrate stuff, but I have lots of alternatives. If you didn't know this, it is a good time to be a Batman fan. There are lots of Batman alternatives. I believe there's 2 or 3 anthologies, lots of extra just Batman series, Batman related characters. Batman's, front and center on everything DC Comics these days. He's about to probably be taking over DC Black Label again as well. And not only is it good just because of the amount of content, you got a lot of good creators on there. Everyone's really enjoying James Tynion. Sounds like maybe the shine's coming off Mariko Tamaki. We'll see how that one goes. But we've got, who else we got? We got Chip Zdarsky. We've got Tom Taylor. We've got all kinds of really, really good creators on Batman titles. But even better are the artists. Oh, my goodness. Has a character ever had this many high-quality artists on them at the exact same time? You got Jorge Jimenez on Batman. You've got Dan Mora and Victor Bogdanovich on Detective Comics. In Batman Urban Legends, it's Eddie Barrows. On Batman the Detective, it's Andy Kubert, probably doing the work of his life. My goodness, I can't wait to show you those comics. Then, what is it? In the Joker, we've got... oh my goodness, I'm forgetting his name. It'll come to me, but just the art across the board on the Batman stuff is phenomenal. It's mind-blowing stuff. So I'm going to be talking about the 3 Batman comics or Batman-related titles that I was really excited about, and I enjoyed all of them this week. This is the best week so far, and I'm probably going to be doing this moving forward. Whenever we get one of these big weeks, we'll be talking about Batman the Detective, Batman Urban Legends, as long as Chip Zdarsky's on it, and then as well as the James Tynion Joker series. Oh, Guillaume March is the artist. How could I forget you, Guillaume? He's such an insane looking Joker character. It's just a great week if you're a Batman fan and if you don't want to read The Magistrate like me, this is the week for you because you get so many good comics. I'm recommending all of these. Highly recommend Batman the Detective this week. Batman Urban Legends is harder because it's an anthology, and I don't like any of the backup stories for the most part. They're okay. A couple of them are okay, but they just don't live up to what Chip Zdarsky and Eddie Barrows are doing on the main story, which is absolutely like 4.5, 5-star quality. So I'll give it a highly recommend, but it's too expensive based on the amount of good content you get in there. And I'm definitely recommending the Joker. On the verge of a highly recommend. That was a good one as well. And I'm also going to give you a little bonus coverage of Justice League Last Ride because I enjoyed that one so much this week. And hey, there's Batman in there as well, so might as well get some more Justice League content because it was a hot week for DC Comics, at least as far as these comics go. Let's get right into it and let's talk about Batman the Detective. I like the idea so far of this series. I don't think that it has executed to my expectations with Tom Taylor and as a writer. Andy Kubert absolutely has blown away my expectations. I haven't remembered him looking quite this good on anything for some time. This might be the work like of his lifetime. And he even picks it up this week because it feels like Tom Taylor finally decided to put some things in action. Unfortunately, a lot of the really good stuff in this comic are flashbacks. I want to say a lot of it, like all of it, except for a couple of reveals. But we get some really good characterization about Bruce Wayne and Ducard and their relationship and how it's kind of hot and cold. There's a mutual respect, but there's also some apprehension about the two. And this, I don't know, it just felt like Andy Kubert got inspired. He took it up to another level. At the beginning, we see Ducard. We saw in the very last issue where he had been attacked. I can't remember if he got shot, but Bruce Wayne, Batman, I believe he's running him into the hospital. He's got Ducard in his arms. He's in bad shape. And then we get these flashbacks kind of remembering the relationship, how Bruce Wayne had kind of tracked him down because he's the world's greatest manhunter. He's not the world's greatest detective. He was the world's greatest manhunter. He had that reputation, and Bruce Wayne wanted to learn those skills from him. And he kind of ends up saving his life during their first encounter because a person is going in there to kill Ducard. Bruce Wayne intervenes, and it turns out Ducard knew that Bruce Wayne was there, and he thanked him for it. Bruce Wayne says, I will pay you an obscene amount of money if you teach me how to track and your skill set, essentially. And Ducard, being a man in need of money, took him up on his offering. And we get a lot of really good flashbacks about their relationship together. They're certainly different people, but there's a mutual respect. And then we get the falling out between the two. Ducard shoots this guy in the face, murders him right in front of Bruce Wayne. Obviously, Bruce Wayne does not believe in using guns, and it did not go well. And then there's another encounter later. But it's just really good. There's a couple of scenes with Bruce Wayne, essentially with a gun to his head, one of them from Ducard himself. I don't know. I just thought it was really good characterization on the relationship and really drove home why this event that opens up the book, him running into the hospital with Ducard, is so impactful and important to him. So I thought that was really well done by Tom Taylor. We don't even see any of these Batman characters that are wearing the white masks that are trying to kill anybody that's been saved by Batman. There's no progression whatsoever in that story itself. But we do get this great last page, and I guess, man, look at this art. Look how squared off that jaw is. Bruce Wayne looks like he should be an MMA fighter or a wrestler or something. Look at that guy. Just looks so physically intimidating, weathered and worn out. Really like this version of Bruce Wayne. I hope this Batman the Detective isn't just the one miniseries. I hope Tom Taylor gets to keep exploring this version of Batman at this time in his life. But the big reveal on the end is that Bruce Wayne has been arrested for the murder of Ducard, and he's about to undergo interrogation again, apparently in the next issue. This is definitely the best issue so far. I haven't really loved the main story so much. It doesn't feel like he's really gotten his feet underneath him as far as what Tom Taylor wants to do with it. But the art has just been spectacular. I don't want to offend people, but I do think what he's doing here is rivaling what Jorge Jimenez is doing on Batman, and what Jorge Jimenez is doing on Batman is the best illustrated comic at DC at the moment, in my opinion. So, I mean, this is right up there with it. This is like 5-star, exceptionally high quality Batman art. So I tip my cap to Andy Kubert and what he's doing here. He's really delivered the goods on this, and Tom Taylor is starting to catch up with him. This issue is much better. Like I said, I highly recommend this. This is a really good one. Now let's get into the Chip Zdarsky stuff. If you are a fan of the channel, you know I am a big fan of Chip Zdarsky. He's certainly been the highlight of this Batman Urban Legends anthology series. It's the mainline stories. It's mainline story. It's only going to be 6 issues. And there's, sometimes there's a one-shot in the backup. There's always three backup stories, so there's 4 stories total. And, we got like a grifter story that's been kind of going on. I think that one's Matthew Rosenberg. There was also Outsiders from Brandon Easton. That one wrapped up last month. So there's some stuff in the background, but this is the main event. This is the only reason I would buy the book. That's why it's hard to recommend it as highly as it probably deserves. If this was its own miniseries, this would be like a 4.5-star, 5-star comic each and every week. If it was like $4, or even if it was $5, because the quality is that high. Unfortunately, it's just wrapped up in some mediocre stuff. This comic is all about Bruce Wayne and Jason Todd's relationship and the guilt that Bruce Wayne feels over it. And we get a lot of flashbacks to Bruce Wayne and Jason Todd's relationship leading up to the fateful day when Jason Todd, investigating his mother, I think it's in the Middle East, but the Joker, we all know he murders him. He almost kills him with a crowbar, and then he blows him up. But when they're doing this, it's being interspersed with this story that's going on with these cheer drops, this cheer story where Jason Todd is trying to hunt down the person responsible for the deaths. Well, the death of the father, I guess he was a dealer. Jason Todd's actually the one that killed him, of this kid Tyler. He calls him Blue Hood, and his mother's in the hospital, might not make it, and it's kind of led him to freeze. It really builds the tension as we're seeing that Jason Todd has gotten in over his head. He's about to be frozen, and we're seeing kind of how Batman let him down before. And has he let him down again, and he's talking to Oracle. Bruce Wayne's taking care of something else, and he's like kind of racing against the clock to get to Jason Todd and save him from freeze. Little does he know he's already been frozen, and there's not much time. And the art, once again, by Eddie Barrows. My goodness. And please, DC Comics, Marvel, start hiring inkers again. Eddie Barrows does the pencils, but I think it's Eber Ferreira does the. Let me look. I don't want to get this wrong because it's so good. I was right. It's Eber Ferreira. It adds so much to it just to get an inker to go on top of the pencil. It adds so much more to the illustrations and the clarity of the images and really the depth and everything. And he's on some next level stuff. When Batman's driving his Batmobile in this, he's got these really cool layouts where you get like the bat signal kind of behind him showing the cockpit. Really effective stuff. And it's really dynamic. His panel layouts, he being Eddie Barrows in this issue of Urban Legends, is just fantastic. You just don't see stuff this cool all that often in comic books anymore. Everything's just standard. You know, there's got to be 5 panels on this page or 9 panels on this page. He really goes out and does a lot of distinct things, and it just adds so much flavor to the comic book. I absolutely love it. This is such a good story. And then at the end, as we're building the tension up and Batman's trying to get to Jason Todd, he's frozen. He does make it to him, but he leaves himself vulnerable. We get this big finale image that Batman, in trying to save Jason Todd, has turned his back, and he has been frozen himself by freeze. And we get the first appearance. I imagine this villain's name is Cheer, and he's the character behind Cheerdrops. I never saw him referred to by name. I think his name is Cheer. I don't know that this is the most unique character design just because we've got other characters with painted faces in Gotham in the Batman universe. But it's not the worst thing ever either. You know, black and gold are great colors. They contrast really well together. Is he third-rate Joker? I don't think so, but he's, with the smiley face and stuff like that. Maybe a little bit too reminiscent of Joker. So I do think they probably could have done something a little bit cooler and more original with their character design. But that is, I believe his name is Cheer. Might be a different name. They didn't mention the character by name. I think his name's Cheer, and that's a new villain. And that was the big finale. Bruce Wayne himself is frozen as Jason Todd was being thawed out. It's just a fantastic story. Probably the best story going at DC Comics right now. I'm really liking the stuff in Nightwing. I think Robin's pretty good too. There's the Green Lantern story is good too, but this is better than all that. What Chip Zdarsky's doing with Batman Urban Legends is fantastic, and this Cheerdrop story is excellent. Really wish it wasn't part of an anthology because you end up having to pay too much for a really, really high quality story. You get a bunch of stuff that you're not all that interested in. At least I'm not. Now let's get to the Joker. I've enjoyed this a lot. I like the concept behind the Joker. I haven't loved the execution for the most part. I don't think that Jim Gordon would be motivated by money like he is in here. I don't think he would be able to be all that conflicted about killing Joker, to be completely honest. I don't know. I don't love James Tynion's Joker. We'll get to that here in a few moments. Like, I like the stuff that he does. I just don't like when he speaks because it doesn't feel like Joker. It feels like more of a generic villain to me for the most part, with a couple of phrases from Joker thrown in there. But let's talk about some interesting things going on. And here we finally get, I believe her name is Vengeance, Lady Bane, as I call her. She and the Samson family are closing in on Joker. I believe they're still in Belize. One of the things that's disappointing me, he's introduced this character, and she appears to be very physically strong, pretty powerful. She does get defeated here somewhat easily, but you don't ever learn anything about the character. What's her motivation other than, I guess, her dad died? Well, I guess that's a good enough motivation, but you don't know anything about the character. It's still a complete mystery. The Samsons, another couple of characters, brother and sister. I know the sister's name's Vicky. I can't remember the brother's name. We don't learn anything. They're just kind of disposable characters. That's why something I'll get to here in a moment is less impactful than probably it should be. There was one cool moment where essentially Jim Gordon has Joker dead to rights. He's got him in his sights on his sidearm, and he could have murdered him right there and gotten his $25 million. James Tynion is going to have to explain why he didn't do it. With all the things that Joker has done, with the amount of people that he's murdered in general in Gotham, around the world, and then what he's done to his family, I don't think that he would hesitate. He came all the way to Belize, but he decides not to take the shot. And then Joker, of course, is the master strategist rather than the world's greatest wild card when James Tynion writes him. So everything's been rigged and everyone gets gassed. And as that's going on, we do jump back to Gotham. We've got Oracle, and she's essentially with, who is it? Spoiler and Orphan, and they're doing surveillance. They're doing surveillance on the lady that hired Jim Gordon for this job. And they're trying to find out who she is, where the finances are coming from. They're starting to get some of the clues, but they really cannot pinpoint who she is. And we get this cool image with Talon behind her. Pretty ominous. Nothing comes of this. I thought Talon and the Court of Owls were like the other group that were moving in on Joker in Belize. Obviously, that is not the case. They're actually after Oracle and maybe the Batman family while Jim Gordon's out. So that was another cool kind of reveal here. And then this last image is absolutely terrifying. This is the one of the Samsons, the brother, and he's essentially sewing his mouth shut with like fuse wire. And it's crazy. And when he sets off this bomb, it's like going to burn his mouth, and it looks like maybe he's like gouged his eyes out and stuff like that. This is horrifying Joker stuff right here. You almost wouldn't even need to speak again after you see this. At first, I thought this was Jim Gordon because the hair was too similar. But then finally they show you that Jim is seeing this happen, and he's just absolutely terrified. Just think about what would happen if Jim would have shot him earlier and he was dead and he wouldn't be able to do this, even though this Samson guy isn't the nicest person in the world. But nobody should have their mouth sewn shut with like fuse that's going to be lit. Like, this is like Guillaume March. Oh my goodness. You, sir, are a madman. This is disgusting. And then it's almost ruined because Joker goes into this 5, 6, 7-page villain monologue, and he doesn't sound like Joker anymore. He sounds like generic supervillain, like strategist number 3. And at one point he's like, "How could you guys think that I, murdered these people in Arkham? I would never, like, that had none of my hallmarks of it." It's, well, it's Jim Gordon and Batman. If it wasn't plausible or likely that Joker did this, they would know that immediately. So it's another thing that does, like, are you trying to say that Batman and Jim Gordon are stupid? Is that what I like this book. The art is fantastic, and the potential of it is so good. I just don't feel like James Tynion has delivered on it. And the backup story, the punchline story, just sucks ass. It's good, but it should be so much better. It could be so much better if you had a better voice for Joker, less villain monologues. There's so many long, super wordy monologues in these comic books. Yes, Joker does like to hear the sound of his own voice, but normally he kind of gets to the point, and he never does that when James Tynion's writing him. He was like that in Joker War 2. It's one of those things. I just don't think that James Tynion's got the voice for Joker yet, but I definitely recommend this, and I think it's going to get better and better. Like, the idea behind this is so great. I want to see Jim Gordon finally get his vengeance or die himself trying. I still don't believe that he wouldn't have shot it. Let's put it that way. All right, let's get into some bonus coverage. I've been enjoying this Last Ride Justice League book from Chip Zdarsky, illustrated by Miguel Mendoza. If you are not enjoying Justice League by Brian Michael Bendis, and I imagine most of you aren't, you should be reading this. This is really cool stuff. The problem is we've got, in present day, the Justice League have Lobo, who has killed Apocalypse, and they need to hide him. And there's this big problem between Batman and Superman. They're trying to hide Lobo, and I guess it's the last ride of the Justice League. It is definitely Elseworlds after getting through this. It felt like it might have been in Infinite Frontier, but it's definitely not, because we start to see what are some of the events that happened to get us to this point. They are worded very similarly to Infinite Frontier in the first issue, but here there's clarification. This is not an Infinite Frontier. Although with the Omniverse, everything happens. So what a stupid concept. But these flashbacks, business picks up big time. I'm still not completely enamored with the present day story. It is Chip Zdarsky. I have the utmost confidence that he's going to pull it all together and it's going to be amazing. But now that we're getting these flashbacks, remember the last issue I said, hey, there's a lot of tell and no show. They're talking about all this cool stuff that happened, but they're not showing it. Well, this week they start showing it. We get, Wonder Woman and her gear from the movie. I imagine that's why it came out. She's fighting like Granny Goodness, so I imagine she's on Apocalypse fighting. We've got Arthur Curry receives one of these bombs from Apocalypse under the ocean. It sounds he's not under the ocean. He's coming out of the ocean, but it sounds like he dies. I'm pretty certain that he did. And then we have Superman like assisting Hal Jordan, the Green Lantern Corps on Oa, like fighting all these parademons and all these things that are happening. Crazy stuff. So it's obvious this is what destroyed Oa and the Green Lantern Corps. It's not what we're witnessing in this Green Lantern series. Like, and all these things are happening, and Miguel Mendoza gets to do all these really good splash pages. I'm definitely going to be keeping an eye out for him. Yeah, it's a good time to be a Batman fan. Just think, Gary Frank and Jeff Johns on Batman Earth 2 or Earth 1 Volume 3, whatever it is. It's a wealth of artistic riches going on. And then we get this really great splash page at the end. They're waiting for Apocalypse to come through, and they've hidden the Guardians of Oa, and he comes through dragging two of their carcasses, saying, I had some errands to run before I could show up. Oh, this image is... I don't even want to tell you what this image is doing to me, but it's dirty. Let's just put it that way. So if you're not reading Justice League Last Ride, I would suggest jumping on that. We're on issue 2 this week. Fantastic stuff. Like I said, it was a good week to be a Batman fan. We got Batman the Detective. I'm giving that one a 4-star. Batman Urban Legends would be at a 4.5 or a 5-star comic if it weren't part of an anthology. That Chip Zdarsky story is badass. The Joker, I'm giving it 3.5 star. I really wish he had a better voice for Joker. He just sounds a little too generic for my taste. And Last Ride has been fantastic. That's not even mentioning Detective Comics. I do know some people are enjoying that. We also had Batman, like I said, that Jeff Johns. Is it Earth 1 or 2? I can't remember. I think it's Earth 1, Volume 3 with Jeff Johns and Gary Frank came out. So if you're a Batman fan, lucky you, because you are getting all the good artists and all the good stories these days. It's definitely becoming one of my more favorite weeks in comic books when we get all these good Batman comics kind of dropped all at the same time. And I'll be covering these in the days ahead. Maybe I'll see if I can get my buddy from Batman News to come on, Josh. Maybe talk about some of these as well. Spice things up. But I definitely enjoyed it. A lot of good stuff out this week, and I will talk to you later.